Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you here. We've got, wow, that just jumped from 2 people to 6 people. That was pretty quick. Good to see everybody here. If you are new, leave a comment in the chat and just say your name or hello or whatever. And if you're new, let us know where you're watching from. I know we've got people who come in here and watch all over the United States, all over the world. Actually, we have quite a few from Asia, from the Middle Eastern areas as well. So we've got people all over the place. Africa. I don't know if we have any Australians here. That might not be the right time of day, but glad to see everybody here. Hope everyone is doing well. Um, welcomes, and I apologize if I say your name incorrectly. Give me some sort of reference so I know how to say it correctly, hopefully in the future. Uh, Webwords Wave Sujan from Nepal. Good to have you. O'Neill from the UK. Good afternoon, I think. I've got a friend who is just over there. So I think you guys are 6 hours ahead of me, something like that. Is it Gabriel from Italy? Good to have you. Awesome. Got some new faces in here. This is really cool. Um, so good morning. In case you don't know, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, which is right in the middle of the United States, pretty much. Actually, I was talking about that with one of my clients the other day. And so we actually looked it up, and we're actually very close. We're not quite perfectly in the middle of the United States, but we're like, I don't know, 100 miles east of the middle. So it's pretty much right in the middle of the United States. I'm in the Midwest. And so I've definitely landlocked and right here in the middle of the United States. So that's where I am. For me, it's morning, and it's morning on the weekend on a Saturday. And so I definitely need some coffee. So you'll probably see me sipping some coffee, or maybe even some water. Sometimes I have to do the water to cool myself off after the coffee, because it gets a little too hot. But I know, Mel, don't worry. This was not microwave. This is fresh. It's all good. So you don't have to be worried. All right. From Ohio. Awesome. Let's see. Currently 4 p.m. Okay. All right. Yeah, I thought it would be afternoon. That's about right. Okay, cool. I have not been to London. I have been to Italy, um, and Romania and Germany. Briefly, Germany was mostly just the airport, but I think it was Munich where we flew into. But yeah, but I spent a couple weeks in Romania, and I spent a week in Italy several years ago. So definitely very cool. I'm not much of a traveler though, so I don't, I'm much more of a homebody, middle of the United States homebody. So, but it's really cool. I love being here on YouTube and being able to do these live streams and see people from literally all over the world, come in here and say hello. So, anyway, let's jump into what we've got going on today. Excuse me, so I can, stop making all of these weird comments. um, all right. So again, if you are new, say hello in the chat, and obviously let us know where you're watching from. If this is your first live stream, we are in the middle of a project, and what we're doing is we're kind of going from start to finish in the project, really thinking through how you manage a project, um, things that maybe you as a developer or as a junior developer may not necessarily have to deal with if you're in a team or something like that. But I want to get you experience and understanding of all these different things that go on. And so we haven't even written any code yet. In fact, we haven't even decided what languages we're going to use yet, or our architecture. So that is coming very soon, though. In fact, we'll talk about that later today. And just a programming note for everybody who's watching, especially if you're new, Generally, the first hour of the live stream is going to be specific to the project that we're doing right now. And then unless I just talk really, really long, which does happen, you generally after that will have about an hour of just kind of general Q&A. If you have questions, things that you want to ask, whether it's related about the project or just other things in programming and development and career and things like that, certainly feel free to ask during that time. As we go along, I do check the chat to see if there's any questions or any comments that I might want to jump into. So if you have a question for me specifically as we're going through this, you can leave a bunch of question marks at the beginning of your statement. That just kind of captures my eye. Or I think you can do like the @DevMentorDave, and that should give me a little bit of a notification on there to kind of catch me as I'm reading through. Because as more people are in the chat, you know, some days it's really busy, some days it's not as busy. But as more people are in there and chatting, it gets harder to kind of see when people are trying to get a hold of me. So if you do one of those two things, that will help me see your questions so that I can help answer it. And of course, we've got a really good community of people here on the live stream, and they're going to jump in and answer questions as well. So thank you to those who do that, especially if you have questions about the project that we've already covered. That's very helpful. So got a new t-shirt. Says, I got these muscles writing code. So as you can tell, not a lot of muscles. There's not a lot of muscle building in code writing, but I thought this would be funny to wear for the live stream today. So, all right, let me see. Oh, okay. You're from Romania, but you live in Italy now. Nice. Let's see. Awesome. Okay. Well, one of the things I want to talk about before we get into the project, we're going to be late getting into project stuff, I think, because there is a lot of stuff that happened this week on the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel. I think I hit a nerve with some people. Definitely went viral on YouTube, or at least viral for me, I should say, on YouTube. We had quite a few views on the video that I put up on Monday talking about PHP. Obviously, lots of people agree with me. Lots of people don't agree with me. Lots of people have no idea, and they're just grateful for the information. But this has been a bit of a crazy week for me, kind of seeing that blow up. In fact, when we started, you probably saw that when we started on Monday, or actually Tuesday, I put up a real quick video just celebrating 1,200 subscribers. And as you know, I've been pretty much celebrating every 100 subscribers along the way, because this is a small channel and it's good to celebrate the small wins, right? And I feel like 100 subscribers is a pretty big win actually for me each time it rolls over. So we've been celebrating that. So I put that up on Tuesday morning. I think it was Tuesday morning, and for 1,200 subscribers. And then that video blew up on Monday and Tuesday, and that video had a lot. In fact, it's had, in just this week, it's had 9,000, almost 10,000 views, which is just shocking. I know a lot of people came over to the channel when Primogen, I forget how he pronounces it. I think Primogen, he reviewed one of my early videos talking about tutorials. And so we got a big spike in subscribers from that, which was really cool. But this is, I think, is the first video that's gotten that kind of traction on its own, quote unquote, you know, via the YouTube algorithm, if we want to call it that. So that's been really interesting to watch that kind of play out this week. And it's been really interesting to see how different people have interacted with that video, because a lot of people really have been very supportive of a lot of the things that I've been trying to say and help with. So that's been helpful. But this was kind of my first dose of negative feedback, and kind of some trolling as well. So it was interesting. It was actually kind of fun, to be honest with you, to have people dissenting from what I said. So that was interesting. But I did want to say we may actually, depending on how things go over the course of the live stream today, we may actually celebrate on the live stream rolling over 1,700 subscribers. That would be 500 subscribers in the last week, which is, that just blows my mind. That's just, I never thought we'd have something like that, and maybe we never will again if I never make a video that catches people off like that. But this has just been it's been a fun week, and at least for me. So I just want to thank you guys, those of you who have been faithfully watching and joining me. You don't necessarily get all the hoopla of things like this. It's fun for me. It's amazing to me that people even care what I have to say and listen to me. So thank you for those who have been around from the beginning or from early on, and especially on the live streams and things like that. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are the ones who really make this thing go by giving me stuff to talk about, by giving me ideas, by giving me interaction and kind of prodding me along. So if nothing else, the subscriptions are great, but they just kind of encourage me to keep going. So that's fun. So we'll see if we can celebrate 1,700. Right now we're at 1,683. So 1,683. Let me refresh it. Yeah, 1,683 subscribers. So we'll see. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, I'd be a little surprised. Most people watching the live stream, I think, are subscribed. But if you're watching and you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon. That way you'll be notified when I upload other videos, when I go live. Once in a while, I'll go live just kind of randomly. It doesn't happen very often. Usually it's just here on Saturdays at 10 a.m. my time. So yeah, so hit the like button if you're watching live. Hit the like button if you're watching this later. Hit the like button. Again, so asking you to like and subscribe is not for, it's not so much for me. It feels good. It's fun. It's great to see that, and I appreciate it. But at the end of the day, the goal of building the channel is to be able to reach more and more junior devs. Because if people don't know that we're here, then they don't know that we're building a community. They don't know that there's something that they can be a part of that can help them out. And so hitting the like button, interacts with YouTube and says, hey, people are liking this, tell more people about it. And so that just helps the channel. Is it going to help me? Sure. Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm just altruistic. No, I want the channel to grow. I'm not stupid, right? I do want the channel to grow. In fact, speaking of trolls, I had one person pretty much call me out this week on my motives for setting the channel. And I think most of you, I know why I created it. I know why I'm here. I think most of you, especially who are on the live stream, know who I am at this point. You know why I'm here. You know how I interact with you guys and my desire to work with you guys and to help you guys in your career. So I'm not really worried about what the person thinks. But it was interesting to kind of get called out for being selfish in a YouTuber. So hopefully you guys know that's not my goal. If it does give me success in some way, that's awesome. But I think I said this last week. I mean, if it's just, 5 or 10 people that interact, on these live streams and that watch the videos and that, participate in the programming and all that stuff, that's great. That's people that I've helped along the way. So that's the important thing. So anyway, thank you everybody for being a part of this. Now that I've used up a whole bunch of time at the beginning of this. So again, like this one, like the other videos, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And even more importantly, if you're a junior developer or even a senior developer, and you want to be a part of a community where there's safety in asking questions, where people are going to help you, we want you to succeed. Join the Discord channel. That's where we have more interaction throughout the week. It's not just around the DeepPockets project. We'll talk about pretty much everything, and we have some fun channels too. There's a meme channel and things like that. So certainly feel free to be involved in that as well. Yeah, absolutely, David. I'm not worried about it one bit. It more just made me laugh than anything. that people care enough to spend the time writing stuff like that that's what makes me laugh the most. So, oh well. All right. I thought I saw some question marks in here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I've been I've been working as a developer for the past 7 years, but the only thing I'm confident in doing is CRUD. How do I go from junior to advanced level developer? What are the concepts I should know? I'm gonna copy this. I forget what your name is. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with WebWords. Web words. I'm gonna copy this WebWords. Web words. Oh man, that's not good. I can't talk today. Um, Let me see if I can copy it. There we go. Copy. I'm going to throw this in my notes at the end because I'll address that at the end if that's all right. If you're not able to stick around till then, you can come back and watch it later. But I want to jump into our project stuff here first, since we do that at the beginning in the first hour. So let me copy that over. All right, cool. So let's talk DeepPockets. One of the things that we're needing to do in the very near future is talk about architecture. And I think everyone in here has probably been wondering, what are we going to use? What are we going to write this in, right? What are we going to use? What languages are we going to use on the front end, on the back end, things like that. And I've kind of been holding off on that because I wanted to cover lots of different topics, but I think we need to start moving forward with that. Even though there's more things I want to cover before we actually start writing code, I think it would be good to get that figured out so that people can start learning things if they need to learn things before we start actually jumping in and writing code. So one of the things I've done is I've created a form, a poll basically for everybody to take a look at, and I am going to post this link not on the video because I don't want to just put this out here for everybody. I'm going to post this link in the Discord channel. So actually, let me do it right now while I'm thinking about it. I'm going to copy this link. All right, and we'll put that in the Discord channel. I'm going to put this in the project updates, the DeepPockets updates section. So let's see. Here we go. And I'm going to pin that so everybody, I think I can pin that. Yes, boom. Okay. So this architecture poll has been pinned into the DeepPockets updates channel on the Dev Mentor Dave Discord server. So, but I just want to run through it real fast so you can see what the questions are. There's 4 questions. First one is, what front-end framework should we use? Something to keep in mind, I only put things on here that I'm comfortable with reviewing. That doesn't mean that I'm an expert at all of these things. It just means that I'm comfortable enough with the framework or with the language to review code, to be able to give suggestions, to use it myself. So that's why, you'll see later on down here in the backend language, we don't have things like Go and Java and C# and all these other options that are available. We're just sticking with the 2 possibilities that I'm the most comfortable with, because I think if I'm going to be helpful for you guys in this process, it's got to be something that I use on a daily basis or that I'm used to in order for me to be helpful from a senior dev standpoint, from a lead dev standpoint. So we've got React and Vue. Livewire is something that I've been picking up, but it's generally used more with Laravel. So if you vote for this, know that may be void if we don't use Laravel and PHP. So, and I'm not saying that we should use that. I'm just saying this would only really work with Laravel, in my opinion, for now, because that's how I've used it. So if you're not familiar, these are front-end JavaScript frameworks. So React, Vue, very popular ones. React's probably the most popular. I do know Angular. I don't like it. I don't want to use it. So I'm not even putting it on here. Livewire is actually a PHP package that transpiles to JavaScript. So you're actually writing your front end code sort of in PHP. If that makes sense, check it out. If you know PHP or if you're interested in it, check out Livewire. Or there's a no preference option. So if you don't have a preference, you're willing to do whatever, go ahead and click this. And so then those who actually do have a preference get their votes in for their specific ones. Backend language, Node, and just PHP. Those are the only two. If we use PHP, I would like to use the Laravel framework just because I think that's going to be easier for most people than some of the other ones out there like Symfony. Friend of mine told me about another one called Yi, but I don't really know that one. And then again, no preference. CSS frameworks. Now, this you may or may not be familiar with, but we've got Material Design, we've got Bootstrap as a framework. Actually, Materialize, I think, is the actual framework. And then you've got Tailwind, and I don't know if there's an actual framework for Tailwind or if it's just the CSS. I haven't used Tailwind that much, only on a couple of projects. So I'm perfectly willing to use it and learn it more. So feel free if that's what you're familiar with. And then lastly, what database should we use? And you may not know, you may not have any preference on this, but MySQL is probably the most popular. Postgres is really popular with a lot of senior devs and lead devs, people who've been around this for a long time. I haven't used this as much, but I am somewhat familiar with it, so I'm happy if we want to use that as well. But again, this is a poll, and we may or may not go with what is the most popular. But I want to give everybody a voice in this process, because as a team, when you have a lead, they may open things up for the opportunity to vote on stuff, to hear your feedback, because as a lead, I don't want to just force people to do things my way. I want you to have a say in what we're doing. That doesn't mean that we'll do things the way that you want to do them at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, I'm the lead. I'm the one responsible for the project, especially in a real world environment. And so we've got to do things in a way that makes sense and the way that I can manage it. But I like to, when I lead a team, I like my team to be able to have as much input as possible on the things that we're doing. And so that's what we're doing here. I'm going to have the final say. So if there's something that I just don't like, I'm going to veto it. But these are all things that I'm familiar with, that I'm happy to use. So more than likely we'll go with whatever the actual vote is on this. So I just wanted to take a minute and walk through that so you understood why those selections are there when you go look at it and when you go vote. So if you are in the Discord channel, you can go find that link and you can vote for the architecture that you would like to use. So let's see. Just keep in mind as well, as we're going through this process, there's going to probably be things from a coding standpoint, from a language standpoint, that we choose to use that you're going to have to learn. And the reality is, even as a senior developer, as a lead developer, I am still learning things pretty much every day when it comes to coding, when it comes to architecture, when it comes to environments, all kinds of different things that I'm still learning every day, because everything is changing and growing and moving very quickly in the development world, in the industry. And so no matter where you go, you need to be at a place that's pushing you to learn new things. If you're not, that's a problem. But more than likely, you're going to need to learn new things as you're going along in your project, no matter where you're at and what you're working on. It's just a reality of what we do. And so if you don't like doing that, don't become a developer. All right. Oh, interesting. Postgres is what's on Free Code Camp. Yeah, it's definitely more popular nowadays. I've been in the MySQL world for a long, long time, so I honestly hadn't realized how big Postgres has gotten, but it seems to be pretty popular. And again, we use it on some projects at my work, so it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with. I'm less familiar with it, but learning's part of the process, right? So even learning to be able to give feedback is necessary. So I'm willing to do that if you're willing to do that. So we'll figure it out. So feel free to go vote on that. And again, we're putting that in the Discord channel mostly because I don't want to just put it out there for people who are not part of the project. I want people on the project or people in related to the project through the Discord channel to be the ones voting on that. Excuse me. Okay. That's that. Now, I did notice, some of you guys talking about the database schemas. We're going to leave that open for a while. And part of that is because we're going to be talking about features today. And typically you want to build your schemas based off of the features of the application that you're developing. So as we're going to be solidifying a lot of the features today, that's going to give you opportunity to then take that list and go back and kind of begin to build out your schema again. Now, along with that, I'm going to put up a repo, and somebody, I forget who it was, mentioned this in the Discord channel. I thought it was a really great idea. I'm going to put up a repository in GitHub where you'll be able to post, and I'll put some instructions out for this, but you'll be able to post your diagrams in there and then push it up as a PR or pull request if you're not familiar with that. And then other people will be able to leave comments on that pull request. And so that will help kind of give us a little bit more structure to looking at other people's diagrams and giving feedback, as well as just sharing the diagrams and things a little bit easier than using the actual Discord channel. So I think that'll kind of clean up the Discord channel a little bit as well. So I will get all that information out to you guys in the Discord channel once I've got that set up. So that'll be looking for that later this week. But I wanted to leave that open. We're going to leave that open probably for a good couple more weeks, just so everybody can get the project features that we're going to talk about today, and see, what that actually is going to look like from a planning standpoint. All right. Need more coffee power. All right, here we go. Oh, good. Yeah, Dimitri, I think you're right. I think that was you. Thanks for taking credit. No, that's awesome. I do appreciate it. And we have a suggestions box. Suggestions box. Sorry, that just caught me funny that the suggestion box that nobody looks at. No, we do have a suggestions channel in the Discord. Actually, we have several suggestion channels in the Discord server. So if you ever have suggestions like that, feel free to throw those in there, whether it's for the project. I think we actually have a project specific one as well. So lots of places you can give feedback. And again, this channel is for you. This project is for you. Give me all the feedback that you can, because I want to make this as helpful as possible for you guys. So that's the goal. Sorry, just glancing through here, see if I'm missing anything along the way. Oh, hi, Dimitri, too, by the way. Let's see. Okay, we're good. All right, so several weeks ago, you guys put in a lot of features that you thought might be good to be part of the DeepPockets project. I want to just kind of highlight a few of those this morning as we go through, and just kind of some things that I thought were good thoughts from you guys. And then after that, we're going to go through and actually lay out what our features are going to be. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way is because, again, you have to remember, whenever you're working with a client, at the end of the day, it's about what the client wants more than about what we think is best. Now, as a programmer, as a developer, we do have to help guide the client, right? We still have to help guide the client to know what is possible, but we need to not get so caught up in what we think we can do. We need to sometimes be willing to take risks, but even tell the client when we are taking risks. I was talking to one of our clients recently, and they shared with me that working with us has been very helpful and encouraging to them, because we don't typically tell them that we can't do stuff. We will tell them if we can't do something, or if it doesn't make sense, or if it's not in their budget. So we do guide the client. We do provide some sort of help and assistance and and consultation, right? So there is that aspect of being a developer, especially in a lead position where you're going to have more of that consulting opportunity. But one of the problems that they had with a previous development firm is they were just constantly being told, no, that's not possible. No, we can't do that. And while we do want to be careful with a client's budget and a client's time and being able to get out MVP, the minimum viable product, we want to try to do as much as we can for them. So at the end of the day, we want to get what the client wants, and we want to put that together as much as possible into something that we think we can do within their time and in their budget. Now, of course, with this project, we don't really have a time frame and we don't really have a budget because I'm not paying anybody. Just making sure everybody understands pay was not part of the deal. All right. Just to be clear. Okay. So just FYI, in case anybody's concerned or misconstruing things. This is a community project. We're all doing it for free. But as the client, I have certain features that I want. And a lot of you kind of honed in on some of these features from the first time, the discussions, from asking questions in the channel. So I was really encouraged to see that. But we're going to go through and kind of list out, based on your suggestions, based on the things that I want, what I think those features should look like. And again, this is part of being part of a development team, is you typically have some sort of lead, some sort of project manager, somebody like that, who's going to be the one that makes some of those final decisions. And in many ways, as a developer, we're just kind of stuck with those decisions, whether we completely agree or not. Our job is to do the best that we can to help move that project along and be successful. And you never know, sometimes you may disagree with something, but you find out later, oh, that was a better thing or a better way to do it or something like that. So again, this will be a fairly high level feature overview that we go through, but I want to give you something final to go through so that you can finish up your diagrams and things like that. But I want to just call out a few things, some of the things you guys mentioned that I thought were good. The first one is having accounts. So one of my concerns was being able to delineate accounts and be able to see balances for those accounts. And a lot of you saw that and called that out in your features. So having separate accounts and being able to create those, being able to delete them. Like I think I mentioned on one of my on one of our live streams that I have multiple checking accounts and savings accounts that we've just kind of accrued over the years to separate money for wherever it's going to go. So we're weird. I don't know. It works for us, but yeah, having accounts, being able to list those out, and being able to create new ones. So that was good. I noticed in their recent spending summary. So I thought that was a really good idea. Actually, something I hadn't thought of in mind that we are going to incorporate. So we'll see that here in a minute. But having the ability to see what you've spent money on. Nobody called this out, but we will in a minute. But having categories to do that with. So recent spending summary. And another person put in here, we might want to limit that to a certain number of years. That's true too. I think they put 2 years on the limit, so that's good. Obviously a budget, right? The whole point of the software is a budget, but everybody pretty much called out a budget on there. The ability to create new budgets. Something that my current application doesn't really do is, at least, the one that I made in Airtables, I can't create like a new budget for every month. I'm just kind of reusing the same stuff over and over again. It's not the end of the world, but it would be nice to be able to create a budget and duplicate it. So I think it's really important to have that new budget forms. I forget who, actually, I don't know who, because it was anonymous. But somebody mentioned having a new budget form, which is something that, again, I hadn't really thought through. So kudos to you guys, right? This is why we go through these opportunities to these what's the word I'm thinking of? I can't think of it. Oh well. All right. Expenditures. So things that we're going to spend money on. This is going to probably be part of the budget. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Adding a spending form. This is something, again, in my current application, I don't have the ability to go in and be like, hey, I spent money on this. Now there are budgeting tools that have that. And there's some budgeting tools that actually connect to your bank accounts and things like that. We're not going to go that direction, but just being able to manually put in, hey, I've spent XYZ in this category for this budget line item. So things like that. Great idea. Um, the ability to add income, add accounts, add expenses. Um, Having a timeline view, I thought that was really interesting. I don't think we'll put that in, but at least not in MVP. It might come in later. We'll see. But timeline view would be really interesting to see when you spend money and how you spend money over time. So that's kind of I've got some interesting concept ideas from that. So that was really cool. Um, how your income gets allocated to each account, especially if you've got accounts that are savings accounts. So that's really good. Um, Savings accounts that have goals. All right. That was a great idea. We're going to put that in what I have as well. Reporting, having a place where you can go and get some specific reports about what you're using, what you're spending money on, where you're at with your goals, things like that. So that was a great idea. Another thing I hadn't really thought about, and partially because I'm thinking of this more as something that as developers will pull down, will run locally, probably turn it off, just kind of turn it on, turn it back, turn it off type of thing. And not really necessarily be a desktop application or not really necessarily be deployed somewhere. But I mean, obviously it could be deployed since it's going to be a web application. So if it were deployed, having a way to send notifications would be interesting. I don't think we're going to put this in MVP, but it might be a change order that comes in through the process. We'll see, because we're gonna be running this like it really happens in real life. So you'll get to see what happens when the client decides they want to do something that wasn't part of the project, part of the MVP, right? So, so I thought that was interesting. Notifications there, or notifications for like, hey, there's a bank holiday coming up. You might want to be aware of that. So that's, again, these notification ideas, really cool ideas. Probably not MVP, but I wanted to call those out. Excuse me. I thought those were interesting and good ideas. I think that's most of it. Categories. That's right. It did get called out. My bad. Categories for um, income or bills, expenditures, types of expenditures, things like that. So lots of great ideas. Even some graph ideas for reporting, for like a dashboard or something like that. I think the dashboard is probably not going to be MVP. But again, a lot of really good ideas, thinking through the process of things that a user is probably going to want to see. But for our current time and budget, the client says no dashboards for now. So, but I just want to call some of those things out because I think you guys did a really good job of thinking through not just the crud, right? Not just the very simple basics of an application, but thinking through what would be beneficial, what would be helpful for the client in their using of the product in the future. That's really important for us as developers to make sure that we spend the time thinking about that, understanding the industry, thinking about what the client's going to need, and then providing options and providing ideas to help guide them and give them things that they didn't think about, which you guys did. You gave me ideas that I hadn't thought about that I thought were really good. So sorry, I'm trying to get the mic out of the way so I can type here in a second. Hopefully it's not making a bunch of noise. All right. Let's see. Do you think we could have a technical document for those features? So what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to give you the list of features. I will put this up someplace. It'll either be in the Discord channel or it might be part of the README for our code base, or multiple code bases. I haven't decided how we do that yet. But it might be part of the README. I haven't decided how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to list them out here. We're going to go over them together. And as we go through and as we create tickets, we'll get a little bit more detailed into some of those features and things like that. So hopefully that helps. let me know. Is it A, Gabriel, or is it B, Gabrielle? I want to know which way to say it. A, Gabriel, B, Gabrielle. All right. So, let me know. Let's see. Anything else that I'm missing here? I don't know any frameworks. I'm going to grow. Hey, that's part of the process, right? Absolutely. I'm a front-end developer. I would love to see some Laravel content. Awesome. Okay, we'll find out if that gets voted on. We'll find out. Let's see. I'm out of here. Please don't leave, Justin. Okay, cool. The first one, Gabriel. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I hate saying things wrong. So, uh-oh. Oh, I just looked over and saw that I was looking down. I forgot how long I was looking down, and it was a long time. I thought it was frozen or something like that. So, oops. All right. So, lots of great ideas, lots of great features. And so right now I'm going to go through based off of the things that you guys talked about, that you gave me, based off things that I know I want. We're going to talk about what our core features are going to be for the minimum viable product. All right. So let's dive in. Again, this information will be things that that we'll have documented. We'll document even further as we go, because part of what happens in a project is you kind of lay out the initial ideas in framework of the application, and then as you start developing, you take kind of each section and you flesh it out even more. So the technical information for this is going to grow over time. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to put it, because if it's in the README, that's going to become a really big README, and I don't like that. So we'll find a good place for the documentation for you guys as we grow over time and as we start making tickets and things like that. So we are getting closer. One thing I will say, sorry, before I've completely skipped this section of my notes. One thing I will say before we get into that, before we get into my final features, if that makes sense, is I want to talk about real quickly some of the future topics before we get into coding, because I know everybody's super excited to jump into coding, and the more we're going through this process, the more we've kind of found different things that we need to take time to talk about. For example, databases. We spent some time talking about relational databases. Not a huge deep dive, real surface level database information, but I wanted to make sure that you guys, I saw that people were concerned about that, and concerned about knowing information and how it works, especially when we started doing the database schemas and things like that. So we took time to do that. And I want to make sure that we're taking time to go through specific things that I think are going to be helpful. I'm going to put a list together, some sort of poll that I'm going to push out this week, probably just in the Discord channel again. So if you're not in the Discord channel, join the Discord channel. There should be a link in the description here of the live stream. But I want to throw out just a few of the future topics that I think are important for us to talk about before we actually start writing code. And I want to get your guys' feedback, because if I have a topic but most people already understand it or feel like they have a good grasp on it, I don't want to waste time covering it. All right. So a few things that we're going to talk about more. We might talk a little bit more about database design. So we might go over schemas a little bit more, especially talking about specifically what our database design is going to be. So we'll take all the schemas everybody's been working on, and we'll kind of go through and create our initial schema for the project, so everyone will have access to that. The next thing that I want to talk about is your local development environment. I know everybody probably uses very similar things, but I want to make sure everybody understands how that works. We may delve into some other things like Docker if we end up using Docker. But I just want to make sure everybody has familiarity with that stuff. Again, most of you probably do, so maybe we'll just spend a little bit of time on it on a live stream. But I'm open to your guys' feedback on that. I want to make sure that we're doing things that are helpful for you guys, not just wasting your time, right? Another one would be working with repositories. So again, I think most people probably are familiar with Git, or Git. But if not, or if you maybe want to go a little bit deeper and talk through maybe the processes that we would want to use, we could do that on a live stream. So think about that. Application design. This is actually creating visual designs. We can talk about some basic principles around that, kind of things that I look for when I do designs. Again, I'm not a designer. Maybe I'll see if I can find somebody that can come on and give us some tips who is a designer. We'll see. But then I also want to maybe talk about tickets and ticket creation and what we should think about when we're creating tickets, what you should look for in a ticket as a developer. So these are several topics that I think are important for us to get through before we even start writing code. So that's at least another month. And I know everyone's anxious to get in there and start writing code. I actually am too. But I feel like these might be important topics for us to cover. So I'm going to put a poll together, see what things you guys are interested from that list, and we'll kind of go from there and see, what we can add. And then of course, we need to start talking about the actual project overview from a code standpoint, architectural design standpoint, and start writing code. So it's still going to be a little while probably before we actually get into writing code, but we're getting closer. I promise we're getting closer. And then everything's going to get really hard because we're going to start writing code and everybody's got to learn new stuff. So let's see. Are we going to be the ones making tickets? No. Sorry. You will not be making, well, I mean, you might, but my thought is I'll be the one making tickets, but I want you to learn why I'm making tickets a specific way. Other ways perhaps that other people define tickets and things like that. So you can get an idea of what you might see in other jobs at other companies, at other teams. So everybody kind of does it differently, but more importantly than that, what you should kind of look for in a ticket, so that, because here's the deal. My goal is to help you guys learn. So I might create some tickets at times that are not adequate, right? And so I want you guys to be able to learn how should I evaluate a ticket? What should I do if I get a ticket that doesn't give me everything that I need or everything that I think should be there? So I want to go through that process so that you understand how to interact with a bad ticket, if you have to. Obviously most of the tickets I write hopefully will be helpful and good, but how do you handle a ticket that doesn't make sense? Do you just go off and do it? Again, I don't want to get into that right now, but this is why I want to go through that topic, because it's more than just how to write a ticket. It's more about what should you look for as a developer in the tickets that you receive as well. So no, you probably won't be writing tickets. It'll probably just be me. I might have you write a couple tickets just as practice, to see what you've got, but yeah, so don't worry about that. You won't be required to write tickets for other devs, necessarily. So Infinite Youth, just a reminder, if you do at DevMentorDave, you can, that will notify me, or if you put some question marks in front of your question, it'll be easier for me to find that. Infinite Youth, I'm going to copy your question into my notes, and I'll cover that at the end. So we're about done, believe it or not. I think this will go pretty quickly on the project features. So we're going to go over the project features for the project, and then we'll jump to a Q&A session after that. All right. Just so everybody knows kind of what's going on here. Okay. So let's jump in. Let me get some water because my voice is gravelly. All right, here we go. So let me change screens here. Excuse me. Boom. Okay. So project features. And again, a lot of these are ones that you guys submitted, probably mostly because they're ones that we talked about. But then there are some on here that I hadn't thought about that you guys submitted. So in my last job, we had QAs make some insane tickets. I swear it was the most confusing thing I've seen. Yeah. Been there. Been there for sure. Um, absolutely. I'm not sure why QA is writing tickets. That's a weird process to me, but whatever, Okay. All right. So first feature that we want to do, make sure we have is budgets, right? Sounds obvious, but yeah, we definitely want budgets. So what's part of it? What do we mean when we talk about a budget? So a budget is um, a list of income and expenditures, right? So money that's coming in, money that's going out. Our budget is going to include um, line items. It's going to have this is how I consider it. So I call them line items, and line items could be something like income. So this is the income that we expect. It could be from a specific source. It could be from the same source multiple times. I think we want some flexibility there. A budget line item would be income and expenses or expenditures. Expenditures. FYI, I am a developer, and one of the things I love about being a developer is I don't have to spell well, which I don't spell well. So as long as I spell it the same wrong way every time, the code still works. So you might see me spell some things incorrectly. Feel free to correct me, and I'll probably ignore you. So here we go. All right. So we've got income and expenditures. These line items should be categorized. So things like housing, auto, health, education, debt, maybe. And these categories we should have some that are auto-generated or static. And we want the ability to have the user create some. All right, so we'll have some that are static, just part of the application. Some of them will want the user to be able to go in and create new categories, right? So we've got budgets have line items. The line items can be income, expected expenditures. The line items need to be categorized. But along with that, we want, I think for budgets, typically a budget is going to be a monthly thing. So we're going to just make it standardized as monthly. We could get more detailed and make budgets more of a like user defined ranges, like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. I don't want to go that crazy for our MVP. Maybe that's something we come back and change later on. But for our MVP, we're going to stick with monthly, as that's a pretty standard process for budgeting, is a monthly budget. English is such a stitched together language. I think most people I can't read it. Who have it as a first language are bad at spelling. Yeah, absolutely, Mel. It is. I'll take that excuse. I'll take any excuse. Absolutely. Any excuse I can have to say I'm okay with spelling bad or badly or grammar. I feel like I'm pretty good at grammar. It's just the spelling part. Okay. All right. So budget should have line items. Those line items should be categorized. Incomes, expenditures are the typical types of line items that we'll have. And income and expenditures, that's going to obviously delineate how functionality works, right? So income is going to increase values, expenditures are going to decrease values, right? And again, these are planned things. Oops. These are planned things. These are not like, hey, I've got income, right? These are just the budget line items. These are expectations, right? We're expecting this income, we're expecting this expenditure. But with this, we definitely want budgets to be duplicatable. Is that a word? Duplicable? I think it's duplicable. Anyway, we definitely want it to be duplicable, if that's a word. And so that you can adjust it and adjustable. And we definitely want to be able to just create a new one, right? So one of the problems, I think I mentioned this earlier, one of the problems with my current budget platform that I had developed is I just kind of have one budget. I can't really adjust it from month to month. And sometimes you need to adjust it from month to month. Sometimes you need to have a line item that's only there for 2 months because you're paying off a school bill or something like that, right? So, and it may not apply to other budgets. So you need to be able to duplicate a budget. We need to be able to adjust that, remove line items, add line items, change line items specifically for that budget, for that month's budget. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, David. I need the red squiggly line. It doesn't give that to me here in this application, so which makes me feel better. It feels like I'm not making as many mistakes. Right, so we need to be able to adjust it, duplicate it. We need to be able to create new ones completely from scratch if we want to as well. All right, so that's kind of the basic budgets feature that we want. And again, we might add things to this as we go. We might clarify things as we go. So don't just assume that this is the be all end all and that's all we're doing, right? So this may change some over time. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is expenditures. And really, now that I'm thinking about this again live, of course, I'm trying to think of a better term for this. Transactions. Sorry, I saw this on somebody's thing. And I meant to change this. Transactions. All right. So a transaction can be either an expenditure or basically a debit or a credit, right? So it could be an income, so a credit, or it could be an expense, which would be a debit, right? So we're crediting to the account, we're debiting from the account. All right, so we have income transactions and we have expense transactions, or I'll often use the term expenditures for expenses as well, right? So we need to be able to add new income. So this would be important, especially if we're adding income that we didn't expect. We need to be able to add that. But basically, we're telling the application, hey, you got money, right? You got paid for something. So we need to be able to add new income as it comes in. We need to be able to auto add automated payments. All right. So, for example, I get paid every Friday at the job that I currently work. So it would be nice if I don't have to go in here and add a new income line, income transaction every time I get paid, since I know I get paid every Friday and I know, since I'm a salaried, I know what that amount is going to be. Generally, for some reason, sometimes it's a little off, but taxes, all that fun stuff. Since I know what that's going to be, it'd be nice to put it in as an automated payment. So it automatically adds that every week until I tell it to stop. All right. So that would be something that would be nice. And really expenses or expenditures should work, in my opinion, the same way. We need to be able to add new, and we need to be able to have an auto. So, so we want to be able to set something up that like Netflix, right? So I have a Netflix account, and I know that charges my credit card every month on the same day, generally, right? So it'd be nice to put that in and have it just automatically add that transaction on the day. Assuming that I know it's something that is going to go out. If I've got like a mortgage payment that's automated or something like that, or a rent payment or anything that's automated that I know is going to come out on the same day every month, it'd be nice for the budgeting software to automatically put that transaction in, and then I could go back in and delete or alter those if they're incorrect, and make sure that it updates the information, right? So we've got budgets, we've got transactions. Transactions are going to be the piece that causes the application to do calculations, right? Transactions are going to be the piece that says, hey, we need to manipulate balances. We need to manipulate the display of what, how much money has been used from a category. These things, this is really what's going to drive a lot of our reporting, a lot of our views, as we look at, using the application. All right, and we'll get to views here in just a second. And I know we just hit the hour mark. We're probably going to go another 10 or 15 minutes with this. It seems to always work this way since we talk a lot in the beginning about different things. So just FYI, that's the plan in case anybody's wondering. We'll move forward. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Let's see. Next, I want to talk about accounts. Again, this is one that you guys called out, which was good. Accounts should be something that we create, that the user creates. So let me put that here. User created. We won't have any static accounts. User. But these should have types. And this will have static types. Such as something like a savings or checking, maybe credit card. I'm just trying to think of things that I would use potentially, things like that. So we have kind of some basic account types, but we should let them create their own account types as well. All right, so accounts are user created. The account types we'll have some static ones. We'll have some user created ones as well. The accounts, let me think here. Let me look at what accounts should be able to have goals. So a goal would be specifically, this is more for like savings accounts. So we want to be able to create goals. This will all be user created. I don't want to try to create, ideas for people. We'll just let them create their own goals, but their goals should be user created. They should have a name and they should have an amount, and they should give the option for setting a goal date. So an end date. All right. So that way we can kind of see, hey, where are you at? And eventually be able to calculate, are you going to make this goal based on what you're trying to do? Another thing that you could add with this is the ability to state how much you want to put towards that goal per month. And this is where that might be something that you actually put in as a line item. So a line item might connect to a savings goal like this, savings goal. So maybe there's an option there to connect to a specific goal. We might talk about that in the future. But yeah, so that might be another option, is to set how much you want to devote to putting into that goal every month. And then another thing to keep in mind with this is these accounts need to be updated based on the income and expenditures. I don't know if that's right. All right, we'll see. So this is, again, where some calculations going to come in. When you have income, when you have expenditures, those transactions, put that in here. Those transactions need to update accounts so that we can get a valid idea of where those accounts are. And so that you can check your account and say, hey, my account doesn't match what my budget says it should be. I'm probably missing some transactions somewhere in here. So there you go. All right, let's talk about views. Oop, one more. There we go. All right, so views. This is things that we want the user to be able to interact with, right? And some of these things we sort of already talked about based on these other features, but I just want to call out just some of the overarching views to make sure that we're thinking about how things will be laid out, how we'll interact with these things. Um, David, yes, this will be available later on. So don't feel like you have to copy all this out. Question: would it be better to move the goals apart from specific account in case you have multiple accounts going to a specific goal? Um, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. Typically, I have multiple goals in one savings account, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not usually going to have two savings account pointing towards the same goal. Like, if you have two actual accounts, to me, I don't know that it makes sense to allocate funds from two accounts to one goal. If somebody come up with a purpose for that, we might could do that. But I wouldn't say yes. I think we'll stick with just one. We'll have goals attached to a single account. Um, I don't know if somebody has a use case for that. Let me know. It doesn't make sense to me off the top of my head. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. So, yeah, let me know. Let me know if you have a use case for that, because I can't think of one where that would make sense for me. So, okay, views. Okay, good point. I didn't think about that. Again, we're pretty much a single income family. So if you have multiple incomes and you have sorry, you have different people with different accounts going to the same goal, I could see that. Um, why wouldn't you just put it in the same account though? Y'all don't trust each other with your money. What's up with that? No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, so let me think about it. I think we'll probably not do that for MVP, but maybe that's something we'll change as a change order. Um, let me think about that. We'll see. Uh, no worries to keep it safe. Don't want to throw a wrench into it or easy. Yeah. Yeah. I think for now we'll keep it easy. But that's a good point. I hadn't thought about needing to do that. There have been times where my wife has had a separate account to hide money from me, mostly just so that we could go on vacation, not because she didn't want to share money with me. But anyway, that's getting personal. All right, here we go. Let's jump back into views. So, okay, we obviously need a basic budget view. Say that 3 times fast. Nope. Come on. Basic budget view. So this would just be looking at your budget, seeing all the different line items, the allocations of what you've created. So this would probably be when you're editing a budget, just looking at a budget, being able to edit the line items from there, things like that. So a budget view that shows your uh, what am I looking for? Uh, amount spent and amount available. A lot of times people do this with like a bar chart. This is how much you spent, how much is still available. So we can talk about design later, but we want to be able to see that, whether that's on this basic budget view or it's a separate view. Something to keep in mind that we want to see. We want to be able to see upcoming bills or expenditures. So this would actually be more expenses from our line items. So we want to be able to see a list of those. This would be a list view, and see what's coming up here in the next by week, by month. Probably the two things that we want. So be able to list that out, but be able to see those in a list form. We also want to do that in a calendar view. So we'll be able to see what's coming up in the calendar without it being a list. Sometimes looking at a list is easier. Sometimes seeing in a calendar is easier to kind of visualize when things need to be paid. So that's a view that I'd like to have. I think this would include both income and expenditures, so it doesn't necessarily have to be just expenses. I think upcoming bills makes more sense for just expenditures, but we could just do like just a calendar view and have it show both. Another good view to have, since we're going to have goals and savings goals, would be have a savings goal chart. So whether that's on the goal page itself, or maybe we have a page that has all the savings goals that you have, and it just shows charts of where you're at in that process, whether that's a completion percentage. Again, we can talk about design later, but some sort of saving goals chart. I think another thing that would be helpful is debt reduction chart or graph, just to kind of show where you're at in the process of reducing debt. And debt could also be a goal. So let's come back up here and mention this. So goals could also be debt or savings. Sorry, I forgot that when we went through this. So debt or savings. So this is going to, the selection on this will determine whether we're increasing it or decreasing it when we apply transactions to it, right? So if I make a payment on debt, it's going to decrease. If I make a transaction to savings, then it's going to increase, right? So this will be something that we'll have to take into account when we apply transactions to those goals. All right, so debt reduction chart, this would be connected to goals. Let's see. What if your debt goes up? You're not doing it right. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's a good question. If you take on more debt, I think what you'd want to do is, let's do this. Let's do manual balance update. So we'd want to have the ability to update your balance manually on your account, if that makes sense. So you would just update the account balance. So if it's a debt, you'd update the debt balance. If it's savings, let's say for some reason, I don't know. Well, for example, like one of my savings accounts has a bonus that comes from we use a credit union, right? And so we get a very, very small bonus that comes into that. Well, that's not a transaction that I did, right? So, but it does increase the balance. So it might be an issue where I could increase the balance manually. So yeah, good call. We definitely want to have a manual balance update. Something I didn't think about when I was writing these out. So, okay. So, last one that I have on here is I would like to be able to do kind of a search or filter on expenses. What do I mean by that? I want to be able to have a place where I can filter expenses by time frame. So I can see how much money I'm spending in a certain period of time by category, or just by expense type. That's more category. Expense line item is what I was thinking of. You know, by a specific one. So you have kind of a group of them, expense line items, a basic time frame, but all of these potentially at the same time as well. These probably wouldn't be at the same time, but these two or these two. And we might do that in a couple different ways. So we might do it like over time. So if you're doing this for multiple months, being able to see a chart that shows that over a time period. So that would be good. And then lastly, notifications. All right. None. For MVP, we're not going to worry about any notifications. I think you guys had some great ideas, and I even thought of some others that I think would be great ideas. We might throw them in as a wrench as we go along the way, as something that the client decides that they want, that's going to change some direction, things like that. I've got ideas for ways that can really mess us up and give us some good opportunities to talk about things, right? So we're not going to worry about any notifications initially, especially anything that's like email or text or anything like that. But even in the app, I think we won't really worry about notifications from an external standpoint. However, obviously we will have notifications for form errors, right? We'll have notifications for visual cues, or things like, how do I say this? If you're overdue, right? So if you have a bill that came up, you don't have a transaction that matches it, having a visual cue or a visual alert, maybe not a notification, but some sort of visual alert that says, hey, FYI, you didn't pay this bill yet. And you might want to do that before you get charged extra or something like that. So that's another thing that we will add, but we won't have like external notifications, probably not like pop-ups or things like that, but we'll do like form validation errors, and then visual cues for other things that we might want to delineate. We can talk about that later as what those might be, but specifically the thing that came to mind most was being, if you have something that's overdue that's not paid, that's a huge thing when you're working on your budget, making sure you pay things on time, and getting some sort of visual cue that you're not, so that you can do that, because paying things on time affects your credit, not just your bank account. So anyway, all right. So just a reminder, as we look at this list, again, I'm going to put this list out and give some more details on it as time goes by. We'll create kind of a, not just a README, but we'll create a repository of knowledge. Where that is yet, I'm not sure, but I'll find a place to put that, so that you guys would have easy access to it, and it will kind of be our Bible per se for the project, right? For how we're going to do things. But I do want to just remind you, again, changes are going to happen along the way. We're going to run into issues. We're going to have to make decisions about things as we develop. And so this is going to alter and change. It's just the way it happens with every project. So that's okay. Don't feel like you've done something wrong just because we might have to change something. That happens all the time. So please don't worry about that. Changes are going to happen. My job as the lead is to take this concept and break it down into a plan that gives us meaningful work, right? So that I'm going to break this down. I'm going to make it hopefully easier to digest, with information, with tickets that make sense. So that's my job as the lead, is to help do that so that you can go in there and do the work and actually build this application as a group. So just a couple reminders there. Even though we're going through this process of thinking through these things, at the end of the day, this piece of it really falls on me, but I want you guys to learn what it looks like to go through and do some of this. So obviously some things that you guys came up with that were really good ideas, really cool ideas. At the end of the day, not all of them are implemented. That's part of the process as well. This is going to be our basic standard for MVP as far as the feature list. So I'll get that put up for you guys in its current form pretty soon here, either today or tomorrow or Monday, depending on when I have time, so that you can start updating your schemas to be able to, your data structures, your database structures, to be able to match the things that we're trying to do here. And now that you know what our final feature list is, you can think, okay, how do I need to create my database schema so that I can programmatically update balances? How am I going to do that? How am I going to know about transactions? How am I going to associate those transactions with accounts? There's lots of different questions that come up once you start figuring out what these features are that help you delineate what that database structure should look like. So scrap everything you did. No, I'm just kidding. So, you're going to go back now and you can create a new one if you want to just start from scratch, or you can start updating the one that you currently have. And again, I'll put together a repository that'll make things a little bit easier, I think, and declutter some of the Discord channel a little bit. from some of these things, and I'll let you guys know once that's up and available for the project. Okay, let's see. I don't see any other questions specifically about this. So what we'll do is, it's 20 after. We are going to cut off. This is the end of the project specific discussion. So if you were just here for that, see ya. No, no. If you're just here for that, you're free to head out and you can enjoy your day. But if you want to stay, we'll be here at least until 12. So at least another 40 minutes. I'll stay on. If you guys have questions, you want specific things you want to discuss, we'll talk through those things. I'll talk longer than anybody wants to listen about these things, probably. So hopefully it'll be beneficial to you. Yeah, David, time to refactor everything. Welcome to development. That's how it is. We tend to find ourselves refactoring things a lot. No, but that's part of the planning process, to make sure that we plan things out well so that we do less refactoring over time. The better you get at planning, the better you, the less refactoring you need. And then, refactoring that you do is better, right? It's going to make more sense. It's not just a random refactor, it's a purposeful refactor. So that's definitely something that that you need to practice. So there you go. You're welcome. All right, let's get to a couple questions that that were brought up earlier. I'll read them out here and then I'll kind of give my opinion. Something that I wanted to say, I meant to say earlier and I just forgot about it, but I think it's a good this is a good place to say this. Keep in mind, I think most of you know this, but keep in mind that yes, I'm a lead developer. I've been doing this for over 15 years professionally. I've been doing it longer than that unprofessionally. I don't know if that's the word I meant to use, but unprofessionally, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. But that doesn't mean that I'm an expert at everything. Everything that I'm telling you is based off of things that I have learned and things that I have experienced. That doesn't mean that I have all the answers. That doesn't mean that I even have the best answers to everything. That's one of the reasons I don't have a problem with people telling me I'm dumb on my videos, or telling me that I shouldn't be saying what I'm saying. They have a different experience than I do. And their experience may be telling them that what I'm saying doesn't make sense based on their experience. And that's fine. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. My experience is probably different, and my knowledge is probably different. I guarantee you there's probably some things that I say that are really stupid about code, just because I don't know something well enough, even after 20 plus years of writing code. So I'm okay with that. Hopefully you guys recognize that. If I say something dumb and you know it's dumb, feel free to correct me. I'm okay being wrong. I'd rather learn than feel like I know everything, right? So feel free, if you know something that I don't know, correct me. And just understand, take everything I say with a grain of salt, right? Understand that what I'm saying is based off of my experiences, my opinions, the things that I have learned over time. So if I give advice, this is not like paid professional counseling, job, career counseling or something like that. If I give advice, it's just my opinion. Hopefully it's good. I want it to be good. I want it to be helpful and beneficial, but always remember, whenever I talk about these things, especially in the Q&A sections, it's really my attempt to help you, based on my experiences and my opinions and my knowledge. So take it with a grain of salt. If you don't like it, okay. I'm okay with that. So it'd be nice if you don't just tell me I'm an idiot, but feel free. All right. Okay. So question number 1, we saw this earlier. Let's see. It says, and I forget, let me run back up here and see if I can find who pushed this in. Oh, that's right. WebWords Wave pushed this in, and I think you said Sujan from Nepal. Hopefully I said that right. All right. So here's the question. I've been working as a developer for the past 7 years, but the only thing I'm confident in doing is CRUD. how to go from junior to advanced level developer. What are the concepts I should know? Um, for those who may not know what CRUD is, I should say, are not talking necessarily about bad code, but CRUD is CRUD, right? So it stands for create, read, update, and delete. So what they're saying is basically, I've been a developer for 7 years, and all I really feel comfortable with is just basic data input and output, right? Input, output, visualization. Um, the first thing I would say is I actually have a video that I'm going to be doing on this very soon. I've already written out the points, so I don't want to give it all away. But no, that's fine. I'll give you what I was thinking off the top of my head, because I can't find my notes at the moment. So the first thing I would say is remember or recognize that, in my opinion, it depends on what you're doing, right? It depends on what you're doing as a job. That would be interesting to know, WebWords, if you're still on, what type of job are you doing? Are you just building websites? Is it applications? My assumption is it's applications of some sort. But if you're, it depends on what you're doing, but most applications at the end of the day, we kind of joke about this actually. Most applications at the end of the day are just CRUD. It's accepting information, putting it in a database, maybe manipulating it a little bit, pulling it back out of the database in one way or another. So it has to do with, most applications really are CRUD. You're creating tables of data, you're creating forms, lists. I mean, at the end of the day, it very much, most applications are pretty simple in what they're really doing. Now, it doesn't mean it's not hard work. It is still hard work, and it's still work. But at the end of the day, most applications are fairly simple. So I wouldn't look down on yourself just because most of the work that you do is that. I understand why you feel most comfortable in that, because that's what you do most of the time. So you're going to feel more comfortable doing that, but recognize that is a large part of the job. Another thing I would say based on your question is, if you've been developing for 7 years, I would not consider you a junior dev. So don't consider yourself a junior dev. Even if you feel like you've been doing the same thing for 7 years, you have knowledge, you have experience, you've experienced different things that junior devs have no clue about yet, because they're still at the beginning of their journey. So I would not even consider yourself as a junior developer. I would consider yourself at least a mid-level developer. Maybe not a senior developer if you feel like you haven't seen enough stuff. But those are two things really off the top of my head that, just from your question, that I want to address. A, CRUD is most of what we write, largely depending on what you're doing. And then B, you are probably not a junior developer. So don't think of yourself as a junior developer. All right. So now to the real question. See, I told you I talk about this a long time. How do you go from junior to advanced level developer? What are the concepts you should know? I don't have a list of concepts that I think you should know. There are other developers, probably people who are a lot smarter than I am. Again, I'm self-taught, so there are things, I mean, I hear terms all the time that I have no clue what they mean, but I interact with those realities all the time as a developer. So I understand the concepts. I just don't know the terms, right? So, and that's okay. That doesn't make me a bad developer. It just makes me a little bit less knowledgeable, maybe a little bit less educated. Excuse me. So I don't have a problem with that. Again, I don't typically have a problem with people telling me I'm stupid. So I don't have a list of things that I would say you should do this to become a better developer. And another reason for that is not just because I don't have a list, but at the end of the day, the question is not what specific things make you a senior level or an advanced level developer. At the end of the day, it's really experience. It's experience and knowledge and speed. So what I would say is the more things you can experience, the more things you can struggle through, the more things you can overcome, the more you will be an advanced level developer. One of the ways that you can do that is by joining the project. No, but one of the ways that you can do that is finding new things to force yourself to learn. If you are in a job where you're doing the same thing all the time, maybe you still like your job. That's great. You don't want to leave your job. But if you don't like your job and you're doing the same thing all the time, you need to look for a new job that's going to push you to learn something new. But if you like your job and you feel kind of stagnant, like you don't really do anything new all the time, then you need to do some sort of side project. Maybe that's maybe that's joining the DeepPockets project. Maybe that's something else that you think of on your own that you want to do. But the best thing that you can do is start a project, but start it with something that you don't know. So maybe you're like, I want to learn Java. So I'm going to start a project and the back end is going to be Java. And so I'm going to struggle through learning Java, because really the difference between a junior developer and a senior developer is knowledge and experience. And in my opinion, out of those two things, it's experience, because experience will increase your knowledge. The more things you experience, the more things you'll understand, the more things you'll know, because you'll have to learn in order to experience things, right? So what I would say is, if you're looking to grow and you feel like you're stagnant, find something that's going to force you to learn, something that you haven't experienced yet that's going to force you to learn. Maybe it's going into the DevOps world and you're like, I don't know anything about DevOps. And you heard me throw out this concept of Docker and you're like, I don't know what Docker is, but I'm going to learn Docker and I'm going to do my next project with Docker. Good luck. No, I'm just saying that might be something that's really far out there and something that you're going to really struggle learning. But that struggle is what actually makes you a better developer. That struggle is what gives you the experience that turns you into an advanced level developer, because the more things you experience, the easier it is for you to learn other things. So like I pick up frameworks now a whole lot easier than I did 10 years ago before I really started using frameworks. Why? Because I've used frameworks for front end, for back end, for CSS. I've used lots of different frameworks and I've experienced lots of different things. It's not because I just became a better developer. It's because I just experienced more things. And so I can pick things up faster because I recognize patterns. I recognize how things are typically done. I recognize similarities in things that I've done before. So experience at the end of the day is the thing that's going to take you from learning to code to launching a successful career, as the tagline says. That is, at the end of the day, it's experience. And that experience is going to increase your knowledge, and your experience and knowledge is going to increase your confidence. So that's the three things. And I talked about this months ago when I first started this channel. I'm getting a little excited here because this is one of my subjects, right? When I first started this channel, I talked about the three things that you need to go from learning code to launching a successful career, right? Those three things are knowledge, experience, and confidence. Out of those three things, one of those will give you the other two, and that is experience. If you pursue experiencing things that are new and difficult, you will gain knowledge. And the more you do that, the more success you see in doing that, you will gain confidence. And when you go into a job interview, the three things that really an interviewer wants to see, especially if they're a tech interview, if there's somebody that really knows what they're talking about, they want to see the knowledge you have, the experience that you've had, and your confidence in that. So when you walk in and you're like, well, I just got out of a boot camp and I sort of know React and I sort of know HTML and I sort of know this, and you talk like that, you're probably not going to get hired. Now, I firmly believe that you should be honest about what you know, but you should be confident in what you know, right? And so experiencing many things, now, let me pause and say experiencing lots of things doesn't mean that you don't try to go deeper, right? So always try to go deeper in the knowledge that you do have. So if you have JavaScript knowledge, go deeper in the JavaScript knowledge. But experiencing, spitting, sorry, but experiencing other things, that's what's going to actually push you to that next level. And it's going to give you the knowledge and confidence that you need to move on, to not think of yourself as a junior developer after 7 years. The more you experience, the more you'll think of yourself as a mid-level or a senior level developer, because you'll have experienced more things. That's my number one advice, is to experience. Don't ignore going deeper in things, but experience lots of things over time, especially over 7 years. You should have spent time, whether it's at work or outside of work, experiencing as many other things as you can. Plus, you never know, as you experience things, you might find out you like something else better. You might find out you like database design more than you like writing front-end code. Well, you just opened up a whole new world of career options for yourself. So, that would be my very long-winded opinion on that. So hopefully that's helpful to you. All right. So next question that we came in earlier. I forget who asked this. Was it Gabriel? Where is it at? I don't see it now. Oh, I don't think this one had question marks in front of it. That's why. I apologize. I forget who asked this, but it says, can you get a job as a self-taught Python developer, or do Python jobs all require you to have a college degree? I don't know. I would say yes, you can, because not every job is going to require you to have a degree. I don't even know what degree you would have for a Python job. Maybe just a CS degree. I don't know. I actually got called out about this on my PHP video. Somebody claiming that you have to have certain levels of experience and things like that, and even to get a job. I would say you don't need a degree to get any developer job. You might need certain certifications to get some jobs, but those aren't necessarily degrees. But especially Python, because Python is fairly ubiquitous, I would say you don't need a degree to get a job. Some may requirement, but most will not, from what I've seen for Python. At the end of the day, it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with the last question. What matters is, how well do you know Python? How well do you have, what's your level of knowledge? What's your level of experience? How have you used Python in the past? What have you done with it? What can you talk about in your interview? And then what's your level of confidence? How confident are you when you're talking about that? Those are the things that really are going to impact your ability to get the job. So more so than having a degree. Now, if the company's just kind of a jerk company and they require a degree, well, maybe that's not a company you want to work for anyway, frankly, in my opinion. Again, these are my opinions, but I found most companies that have requirements like that are not typically companies that I would want to work for. They seem to be very stuck on themselves and how good they are, and often are not necessarily a great place, especially for junior devs, to get a job and grow their career. So hopefully that answers your question and is helpful with that. All right, those are the two that I put down from earlier. Let me look through the chat here and see. I think we've got some newer ones. Question from CW. Talk about dealing with legacy code, please. Most companies are hiring new devs and throwing them in the deep end of the pool at the first day of work. If a company is hiring a senior dev position, what is expected on the first day of work? He's new, but he needs to act as a senior. This is a really great question, actually. So I think many of you probably know that the company that I work for, we only hire senior developers. That's part of our process. That doesn't mean that we hate junior developers. Obviously, I'm here, right, talking to junior developers. So that's just kind of what we've decided is our business model. So again, nothing against junior developers. I love junior developers. Others in the company love junior developers, but that's just our business model. So that directly impacts your question, right, CW? So if you have a senior developer who comes in, I'll speak from my experience, both as a senior developer coming into companies as well as even just kind of how we do things. Generally, the first day you're going to be getting associated with what's expected of you. Depending on the company, I mean, there could be a lot of like HR stuff that you have to do, but like first day on the job, you're going to get access to repositories for the project that you're working on, or multiple projects, depending on what your requirements are. You're going to your first couple of days are going to be more about setting up your environment, especially if they give you equipment. Then you're going to probably be learning how they have the environment set up, what they expect of you from code quality standpoint, what their code requirements are. It's going to be a lot of understanding how they do work. In fact, depending on the company, that could be up to a day. Generally, though, what we expect is that a senior developer should be able to come in, especially if they're dealing with a language that they know. For us, if we bring in a Laravel and PHP developer and Vue developer, we're going to expect them to be able to get up to speed pretty quickly. They should be able to, within the first week, have submitted some sort of pull request, ticket completion, something like that. So, and really, usually within the first couple days, 3 days, that's going to be the case. Now, again, it also depends on the project, right? I've come into jobs before where the project is massive and you just need a couple days really to get your head around what we're actually doing, to get a fuller view of that. So I would say you need to be able to start submitting code and impacting the project within the first week. Now that may be within a couple 3 days, that may be within the first 5 days. A lot of it depends on the project that you're on. But if you're a senior developer, you should be able to start submitting code to a repository, understanding a project within the first, I would say, average 3 days. That's getting your environment set up. That's understanding code quality requirements. That's understanding, things like that. That would be my typical baseline. Obviously, there's things happen. For example, we've had issues where somebody's just had problems with the environment, and you're having to work with IT to get those things fixed and stuff like that. Things happen, right? So it's not a hard and fast rule, but I would say on average, probably 3 days to get your head wrapped around the project, to get your environment set up, to know where things are in the code base, and to begin actually jumping in and starting to make a positive impact from code. Now, that's a senior level dev, right? And I know that's what you were saying in your thing, but I want to make sure that we understand this is somebody who has been coding for years, who was hired because we understand or we believe that they have the ability to do exactly that thing. In the interview process, we're going to find out if that's something that you're capable of doing as well as we can, right? So it's going to be something that hopefully you'll know in advance. Hopefully they communicate to that to you in the interview process. If they don't, ask that question. What does ramp up time look like for you typically for your senior devs, right? So ask those questions. But for a junior dev, should look totally different. The problem is it often doesn't. And this is just a reality of where we're at. In fact, if you look at job requirements for junior devs these days, they look like job requirements from senior devs before. So, hmm, hang on one second. I am getting a call from my wife, so give me 1 minute and let me put this on pause. Sorry about this, guys. All right, sorry about that. um, nothing major, nothing bad. We're good. All right, so sorry, what was I talking about? Oh, junior devs. So if you look at the market right now, the requirements for a junior dev are what requirements often were for senior devs before. There's just so much more that they expect out of junior devs than we used to, which is really annoying and frustrating to me. Um, so unfortunately, it's going to probably look somewhat similar. Just the expectations will be different. The expectations of the type of pull requests you should have should be different. But I would look to be up and running within the first week, whether you're a senior dev or a junior dev. Obviously, probably more like 2 to 3 days if you're a senior dev. Um, but for a junior dev, it depends on their process. If they're a really good shop at working with junior developers, um, they could do something really cool and just bring you along in a great way. Unfortunately, in my experience, most dev shops are not that way. They're not. They don't have that knowledge and experience and mentors to do that. So yeah, I would be prepared to find some way to be helpful and successful as quickly as possible. That would be my advice. Hopefully that answers your question, CW. Let me know if you have follow up on that, and I'll answer that. Okay. Mel, as someone who's been a dev for a long time, what makes you want to learn the most? Huh. Coming across specific problems, new and shiny things, or hearing what others are doing. Yes. I think all of those things. Um, what makes me want to learn something the most? Honestly, I find most of my learning comes from necessity these days. Um, as a developer, as a senior developer, I have to know things for new projects. So if I get a project that maybe we take over a project from somebody else, and it uses a framework that I'm not familiar with, I've got to go learn that framework, right? Sometimes it's just wanting to learn something new because it sounds new and shiny. For example, excuse me, I started learning Livewire um, after I went to Laracon last year because it looked cool and interesting. And so I thought I'd jump in and try to learn it. Haven't had as much time to learn it as I would like, but yeah. So I would say most of the time it's need. Some of the time it's just interesting, something that looks interesting. But the majority of it's because I need it for work, or I might learn something because I want to incorporate it in something that I'm doing here. For example, I might learn Livewire more if we did that in this project, right? So, or I might learn something new to be able to demonstrate to you guys how I learn things, right? So, and even that really is kind of more need based, right? It's more, hey, I need to learn this for this purpose. So I would say probably 90% of what I learn new is based off of needing to learn it for one reason or another. Um, but once in a while I do pursue things just because they look cool. They look interesting, but yeah, as a senior dev, it's probably more often new or needed than interesting. So, let's see. Gabriel, when should I feel ready for PHP Laravel junior job? I already did front end for 3 years, React and Angular. I'm transitioning to full stack. That's a great question. When should you feel ready? I don't know that you ever feel ready, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Um, I would worry less about feeling ready and worry more about knowing that I've been successful using it, right? So I guess my answer would be build a project. If you can build a project and you can um, not something simple, build something that makes you think and makes you learn and makes it hard. Um, if you can do that, then that's something that you can talk about. And especially going into a junior role, if you can talk about things that you've experienced and ways that you've grown in your knowledge in the process of building this application, um, that to me is huge. That tells me that you can do the work independently that we need you to do independently. Plus, having built something gives you yourself a feeling of success. The reality is, more than like, unless you're applying for something that you know you can do, which I've only ever done once in my life. Um, Several years ago, I put in an application as a WordPress developer after I had kind of moved on from WordPress development. And to be honest with you, I was just looking for a job. I was just looking for a paycheck. I wasn't looking to grow my career and make myself better. And so I just took something I knew I could do, and I got a little stagnant, to be perfectly honest with you. And that wasn't great for my career. Now, I was able to change that even at that job, thankfully. But I would generally advise you not to apply for things you're comfortable with, but apply for things that you want to learn and grow, and even communicate that, especially as a junior developer, communicate that in the interview, that you've started learning the process of this. This is what I've done with it, but I'm anxious to learn more. I'm anxious to see how other people do it, to learn best practices. There's ways that you can phrase the desire to learn that helps people see both the desire to learn and the fact that you have put in the effort already. So I don't know that you need to feel comfortable necessarily in what you're trying to apply for. Apply for something that you're not comfortable with, that you don't think you deserve. Um, and if you get shot down, you get shot down, but you never know. You might open up an opportunity that you didn't think would have been available and actually helps you really grow in your career long term. So, um, I would say I would say there is no feeling ready even today. Um, as a lead developer, if I were looking for a job, I would probably be applying for things that I don't think I feel ready for, even with all the experience that I have. Um, that's just part of imposter syndrome. That's just part of realizing that we don't know everything. And all that kind of seeps into the way that we think about ourselves. And so we can tend to assume that we're not good enough. Um, and so I wouldn't even think in those terms. I wouldn't think in terms of being ready for something. I would think in terms of pursuing something. Pursue something that's going to be better for you, and do everything you can to prepare yourself for it. That may mean you don't prepare well enough the first couple of times, and that's okay. But keep pushing forward. So I wouldn't try to think of it in terms of I feel ready for this. I would think of it in terms of I'm going to pursue this, and I'm going to put the work in to do that. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't. There's just so many. There's so many things that you can learn. There's so many things that you can experience. You can't just put a number of years on it. I've told this before, but I've got a friend who's been doing development for years and years and years, maybe as many years as I have, but he literally just builds forms every day. Like that's all he does. And he's okay with that. Like he just doesn't have any desire to pursue anything else. But that doesn't mean that he's a senior developer. And that sounds harsh. Hopefully he's not watching. But you know, he's the type of person that would agree to that as well. But that doesn't mean that he would be somebody that should be leading a project. Just because he's been doing it for 15 years doesn't mean that he has the experience and the knowledge to put him at that level, right? Because his experience is very small to a specific thing. So that's why I always encourage experience. Experience will drive knowledge and confidence. So if you're experiencing more things, if you're pushing yourself to do more things, to learn more things, that's going to help you take those steps and open up doors of opportunities for you as a junior developer, as a senior developer, as a lead developer, as a retired developer, whatever it is. That's really what's going to do it for you in the end. You're never going to feel adequate. And that's just the reality. You'll never feel adequate. So don't look for feeling adequate. Oh yeah, sorry, CW, I forgot about that one. What's your take on dealing with messy legacy code? Don't take that job. No, I'm just kidding. In fact, most jobs that you take are probably not going to be greenfield projects. They're probably going to be jobs where you are dealing with code that already exists. And oftentimes, unfortunately, you're going to have legacy code that is nasty. That sometimes, I think it's important sometimes to understand that what you think is bad legacy code is often because you just don't understand it yet. Not that it's not bad code, but some of it could just be you don't understand the application very well from the beginning, which that's life, right? But what do you do when you have legacy code? Well, the most important thing in answering that question is understanding how your company empowers you to deal with that legacy code. Some companies encourage you to update code. Some companies discourage you from updating code because they're fine with it the way it is. You just need to add on to it. And they don't understand the problem of technical debt and legacy code. So what I would do if I were in your situation, CW, is I would take something, probably start small. Start with a small function, start with a small area of the application that has legacy code that's not written well. And I would take that to my lead or my manager, and I would say, hey, especially if this code is preventing you from doing things well that you're supposed to be doing in your tickets. That's a huge thing. That's one of the best things that if you can find legacy code that needs to be refactored in order to make your new code work the way that it should, that's probably the best way to kind of jump into this. Because you can take that to your manager or to your lead and be like, hey, this is keeping me from being able to write good code here. I want to write the best code that I can. Can I get a ticket to refactor this? Can I get the time to refactor this so that it all works better together? If you can approach it from that direction, you're much more likely to get a positive response to allow you to refactor that code. At the end of the day, especially as a junior developer, But even as a senior developer, if you're not in a lead position making those decisions, if you've not been empowered to make those decisions by your management, then you need to ask. You need to bring it up so that other people are aware that it's a problem. Um, the best way to do that is to show how it impacts you in your current work, but bring it up, show that it's a problem, show any risks that might be involved with keeping that code the same way. Um, and and don't just do that. Provide a solution. Say, this is the direction I think we should go with this, or I think we could refactor this to do it this way, or to use this library, or to do something else in a way. So have a solution in mind as much as you can when you talk to them, because if you just come and say, can I refactor this, they'll be like, well, how long is that going to take? And then you got to have that discussion, right? But if you can come into it and be like, hey, I really need this refactored because it's not working well the way that it is, or it messes up my other code that I'm writing that's newer, and this is the thing that I think we should do with it. It should take a day and a half. Like, if you can come with those things, those give much better responses from your lead or from your manager, because they show that you've already thought things out. You understand the impact on timeline. You understand the impact on your availability, things like that. If you can think through the things that they're going to be concerned about, you're going to have a much higher likelihood of being allowed to refactor that code. Do not refactor more than a few lines of code without checking with a lead, especially if you're a junior developer. Do not do that, because there may be reasons why that code is the way that it is that you don't know. It could impact other things. You need to do a lot of research when you're wanting to refactor and see how a refactor is going to impact other code. So, yeah, managers are like, we got to turn out new features. Why reinvent the existing code? Yeah. And again, unfortunately, that sounds like an environment that is not open to doing things well. Part of my answer would be, you need to find a new environment. Um, that's not always easy, though. So, and I get that. So, I mean, if that's the case, then I would say, follow their rules. Look for a different job. Look for a company that's going to allow you to do those things and encourage you to do those things, and take this reality into your interview process when you're interviewing for other jobs, and ask them, how do you handle legacy code? How do you handle upgrading legacy code? Do you encourage that? Do you allow developers the freedom to be able to do that? Because that's a good question. If they say, well, if they're wishy-washy, may not be a good place to work. If they say, hey, we don't really allow you to do that, or they might say, hey, we do that, but only the senior level developers are allowed to do that. That's okay too, potentially. If you're a junior developer and they say, yes, we do refactor, but we only have senior devs refactor, ask what that process looks like. If that's something that can be done quickly so that a junior dev can interact with it, or if it's just going to go in a backlog that somebody hopefully will get to someday, that may not be the best solution. So use this as information to go to your interviewing process, and use that to filter out other companies that might treat things the same way as your current company. So yeah, that's unfortunate, honestly, that they would do that. That's a company that probably has pretty thin margins, and they probably need to churn out a lot of work to hit their income. So, which, I mean, that's the reality of a lot of dev shops. So that's just the way that it is. But yeah, I definitely, if they don't change their tune, I would at least look for other options. It may take a while, but I would look around personally, because otherwise, especially if it's code you deal with all the time, that's not good. You need to be constantly updating your application and making it better, even if it's code debt, that technical debt that the client's never going to see. You need to do that so that you keep software engineers. All right, any other questions? I think I've got everything. If not, we'll go ahead and sign off here. It's just past noon. Just past noon my time. It threw me off when I got that phone call. For some reason, I saw something that said 10:55. I was like, I've been on here longer than 55 minutes. I know that's for sure. So that was weird. Oh, we need to go back and check. Let's see. We're on our live stream. What do we got? 1,693. So we're 7 shy. So we can't celebrate 1,700 on the live stream. Oh well. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do another video when we hit 1,700. Maybe I'll wait till we hit 2,000. I don't. It's just been growing so quickly over this last week that I'm kind of hesitant to do any sort of celebration because it feels like it's just gonna run past that too quickly. But maybe it's slowing down here, so we'll see. All right. I don't even know how to pronounce this username. XViz. We'll go with that. XViz. I'm a front end dev. Do you think it's best to become a full stack dev to get a job? I wouldn't say best. I would encourage you to become a full stack dev more because by doing that, you'll create more opportunities. So in that way, it's best to be a full stack dev. But that doesn't mean being a full stack dev is better than being a front end dev or a back end dev or a DevOps dev or some other type of dev, right? I think a lot of it also depends on what you like doing. Don't just do something because everybody tells you to do it. Do something because you enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be doing this hopefully for decades. So find something that you enjoy in what you're doing. And if that doesn't include the back end, maybe you don't do it, Now, sometimes you just learn stuff because you know it's going to be beneficial for you. And maybe that's the best path to go. But maybe you look for a full stack job that's more front end heavy, But the reason I would encourage people to do full stack is not because I think you have to be a full stack dev to get a job or to be good at your job. I think full stack just gives you more opportunities. The more things you know, especially more things you know well, the more opportunities, the more job possibilities are open for you. And so that would be my goal. If your goal is to get a job, find the things that people are looking for and learn those things, right? So whatever's popular in your area, learn those things and try to be as good at them as you can, and then apply for those jobs. So I feel like I should have so much to learn in regards to front end and Next.js. How can one master front end while learning the back end? Yeah, I get you. I think for me, I've never been real key on mastering. And that sounds bad probably, but I'm a jack of many trades and a master of few. And I'm successful, at least in my opinion. So to me, it's not so much about mastery. I think people who focus on mastery and who achieve mastery and some of these things are really, really awesome. And I think that they bring a lot to the table. Sometimes they can command a better paycheck, maybe than some of us who are not masters at anything specific. But again, for me, a senior level developer is more about experience than it is about mastery. And I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I would say become as proficient as you can, especially in things that you like. Become as proficient as you can, and in things that you're not as interested in, become as proficient as you need to be. So grow know the things that you need to know in order to do what you need to do. And this kind of goes back to what Mel was asking me earlier about what drives my learning. What drives my learning is what I need to know at the time. And typically when I'm learning something, I tend to only learn the things that I need to learn. So I don't learn things to master them completely. And maybe somebody will find this clip someday and come in here and tell me I'm a horrible person for saying this, but I've just never found the need to be a master at everything in order to do the job well. Have I worked with people who are masters? Absolutely. I worked with people, especially front end devs who were just masters at. I worked with a guy who was a master at CSS. Like he could make anything. It was crazy. It was awesome. But he was limited in the things that he could work on because he spent all of his time mastering CSS. Um, and so I've never been one who was real concerned about mastery of a specific thing. So I don't encourage people myself to do that. Though I'm not against it. I would rather have a vast array of knowledge of things that I need to know to do what I need to do. And so that's what I would focus on over mastery. Oh, okay. You're the one that DM'd me on Discord. Awesome. So does this mean I don't have to write you back? No, I'm just kidding. I probably will still. It's been a busy week, as I'm sure you've noticed on the YouTube channel. But even in Discord and work as well, it's been a busy week. 1694. 1694, we're getting closer. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Let's bump this up to 1700. No. Anyway, that's cool. Thank you. Guys, if you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave them in comments on the video. Join the Discord channel. If you're not in the Discord channel, leave questions there. I try to answer those as soon as I can as well. We're going to shut it down for today. Now it's 10 after 12 my time, so a little over 2 hours here. Again, thank you everybody for being on the live stream. We got kind of typical numbers, but some new people here, so that's cool. Hopefully we'll get some more as we get into the coding in the days ahead. Don't forget to vote on the architecture poll. That's already been put in the Dev Mentor Dave Discord server. I'm going to get these items up as well someplace for you guys to see the features so that you know what features we're going to focus on for the project. And then, of course, if you have questions throughout the week, send them to me. We've got devmentordave.com. We've got the Discord channel. We've got comments sections on videos. And again, if you want to help boost the channel, watch videos, like the videos, invite others to like the videos, send them to other people. Will you bake a cake when you reach 2,000? I don't know that I want to eat any cakes that I bake. I don't know. Maybe we might do some celebration. I don't know. We'll see. That's a great idea though. I like the way you think, Mel. So, all right. Thank you guys. It's been fun as always on Saturday morning. I'll see you guys next week. I will have at least one other video, probably 2 or potentially 3 coming out this next week. One thing about getting a lot of new subscriptions, it kind of gives you more energy to do some of the things you may not have had the energy to do, like making more videos. So that's definitely spurred me on a little bit. I've got a lot more ideas of things that I want to make videos of. So we'll be expecting some more videos coming out here in the coming week. So I will see you all next Saturday and in the videos coming out next week. And again, all throughout the week on the Discord channel. So thanks again for showing up and for asking your questions and giving me something to ramble about for 2 hours. So I've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed it. And I will see you all later.